Sideline Stories Episode 7 features Natalie Allport. Natalie grew up snowboarding for the Canadian national team and has since founded her own athlete marketing agency. She also has her own podcast and creates CrossFit content. Let's dive into her journey. Welcome back to another episode of Sideline Stories. Today we have Natalie Allport from Ottawa, Canada, who is a CrossFit competitor and CEO of her own marketing agency. Natalie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Let's get right into it with the questions. So growing up, who was your favorite athlete?
I have always been a big fan of Muhammad Ali. I actually still have a Muhammad Ali 3 paintings straight in front of me right now. My grandma was obsessed with Muhammad Ali. She tells me she kisses his painting every night before she goes to bed. So yeah, family history there.
So I know you're based out of Canada, but a lot of your agency and consulting skills have to do with making money and profiting off of name, image, and likeness. So with the NCAA just this past week, finally allowing for college athletes to make money off of name, image, and likeness, where do you imagine we will see a change in how athletes market themselves?
Yeah, I mean, even like we were talking about TikTok already, I think that's going to be huge for athletes, especially when you think about longer YouTube videos. Often athletes just didn't have the time or the resources to put into buying a camera, making a vlog, learning how to edit. But there's now platforms that make it seamless where you can just take a bunch of clips from your phone, participate in a trend. And if you are a college athlete, some of those things can really pop off and people are really invested in your journey. Even just athletes showing the behind the scenes of the gear they get at a D1 school. People really love that stuff. So I think it's really going to empower athletes, even at the college level, if they're not even going to go to pro, to pursue things like becoming creators or becoming entrepreneurs and seeing what they can do with that.
For sure. And I think that in turn is going to give the audience and fans more of a behind the scenes look and almost make them feel closer to the experience. The past few years, there seemed to be a trend towards either starting or continuing this dialogue about mental health within athletics. Why is this conversation so vital to the future of sports?
I think it's so vital because part of the reason I stopped snowboarding was due to my mental health. And if I had seen someone like myself talking about it the way that I try to, maybe I would have been able to seek help earlier. Maybe I would have, start realizing what it was, because at the time I had no idea. I would have been more comfortable speaking with coaches if they had that training. It just would have changed a lot of things. And so I want to make sure that athletes aren't going through that same thing, because you never know, it could be the next Jordan in basketball and he's going through something mentally and that causes him to drop out or miss a tryout or something. You never know. And what could have been if they could have just taken care of their mental health and prioritized it. I also think vulnerability is a superpower. And so until we embrace it in the sports world, we're never going to reach our potentials as athletes and as humans.
Following up on the mental health side of things is, why do you think it's so hard for some people to understand this importance? Or, a common thing you'll hear is that, you can't see mental health, right? It's not like physical health where, you have a broken arm or a dislocated shoulder. It's more abstract. What do you think the major obstacle is to kind of get through to those people who have a harder time understanding its importance?
Yeah, well, I mean, even I was just watching the dark side of the football yesterday, and they were talking about pain and injuries and how much they had to push through, and where team doctors were even lying to the athletes, saying, "Oh, you just have this, we'll just inject you with this," and then they realized they actually were on the verge of something that could be catastrophic. So I think if we're treating in sports injuries like that, physical injuries, imagine how we're treating mental injuries and mental health when we can't see it. It's even worse than in real life because, most people in real life, like you said, they have a broken arm, something that you can see. They're going to go to the doctor, they're going to get treated. It's pretty visible. But in sports, you're already taught to push through those things. So mental health then just gets completely brushed under the rug. So I think it's understanding that. It's just saying that mental health is health, period. And we have to continuously challenge even the vocabulary that we use talking about it with our friends. When you hear a friend kind of dismiss their mental health because it's not valid, or they feel like we have to like, no, that is real. And similarly, if we see someone just, hating on someone because of their mental health and saying, oh, they're doing it for attention or whatever it is, we have to give the benefit of the doubt that these people are truly struggling. If they're speaking out, it's not for attention. It's very strong to speak out. So I think it's just challenging the culture and the way that we think about it in general. But I do think because of the culture in sport of push through, keep going, athletes are superheroes. They're not human, right? They're like more than human. Because we put these athletes on pedestals, that makes it hard for us to accept that they're going through the same things that we're all going through.
For sure. And one of the things that I've seen across the years is, mental health is just as important as physical health. And I think that kind of says a lot about the importance of both. People who are mental health advocates, they're not saying it's more important than physical health, but they're saying it's just as important. Similar to mental health, what does it mean to be an advocate for women in sports in today's world?
Yeah, well, I think what you just said to end before you ask that question really kind of touches on the same thing I would say with women in sports, where it's saying, if I'm an advocate for mental health, I'm not saying that it's more important than physical health. I'm saying it's equally as important. And so it's the same thing when I'm advocating for women's sports and female athletes. I'm not saying it's better than men's sports or that we deserve more. I'm saying that it's equal to, and we should get the same opportunities at the very least. And I think for me, it's just, showing my journey as a female athlete is part of it, but also, advocating for other female athletes and trying to, I'm wearing a Liberty jersey. I try to support with my dollars and with my time and with just what I wear, what I post about other female athletes, because I think part of the thing that holds us back as female athletes, and I know this was big for me growing up, was I had a lot of internalized misogyny where I was like, I want to be the only girl. I want to be the first girl to do this, or I want to be this. That doesn't help me raise the women's sports in general or empower other women. Like, it doesn't help us all kind of rise up. It's like I'm fighting for the only seat at the table. If there's 10 seats, all of them are male, one female. We need to say, how come there's only one seat for women, and just try to make that equal rather than trying to fight for the only one. So sometimes the competitiveness of sport actually can hold us back from raising the whole value of women's sports in general for the next generation.
Really well said. And I think one athlete that really sticks out to me when we're thinking about both female athletes, women in sports, and mental health is Naomi Osaka. She's one of my favorite athletes out right now. She's not afraid to challenge the norm. She's not afraid to say, hey, not only are these questions just horrible questions by these reporters, but it's getting a little bit in my head. It's questioning if I am, good enough to compete with the best of the best in tennis, when she clearly is one of the best female tennis players, if not the best in the game right now. So I look to someone like Naomi, and she's, I think, kind of leading this charge in dialogues around women in sports, dialogues around mental and health that need to be continued.
Yeah, well, she was the highest paid female athlete 2 years running, and she's young and, young, marketable, and speaking up about her mental health and taking control of that. I think that's everything that you could ask for in leading those charges. And especially, it's really showing that this next generation is just unafraid to voice, their concerns and set boundaries, which is going to really change the game for those even coming up after them.
What is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Ooh. Just keep trusting the process. I think I've always been very goal oriented, and that's actually kind of what my TED Talk goes about how I've made a switch into the growth mindset and really focusing also on the process rather than just the end result. I used to beat myself up if I wasn't at that end result, and every day was like, I need to land this trick, or I need to generate this client, or whatever it was. You can't control that. All you can control are the daily efforts you make and the habits that are then going to get you there. So that's what I focus on now. And I wish I started that earlier, but again, I had to learn that lesson to be able to switch the mindset. So no regrets, really.
And what would you say is next for you?
Yeah, more of the same. I'm always, for the last 2 years, I've been trying to stick to that answer. I have a lot of different goals with what I'm doing, but just more of the same chipping away. Like I'm getting my shoulder checked out today, so hopefully that can progress if I need surgery or something. I mean, I've already mentally like accepted that if that's the case, like I'm ready to tackle that rehab again, full steam, even though it's been 2 years of rehab already. So I'm excited to keep pushing. I think I have more potential when it comes to CrossFit and my athletic potential. I was just at the early stages of my career, I felt, in that sport before I got hurt. And then same thing with business, looking forward to keep helping more athletes, making an impact there. And then with my content, keep sharing the journey and hopefully just keep making an impact there. Lots of, exciting partnerships and things on the go with that I'm really stoked about. And I'm just excited to keep pushing that out because it's really cool to see how the messages you get and the impact that you're creating. I never thought it would be possible even a year ago when I just started posting.
Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I mean, I think we covered it all. Women's sports, mental health, the business side of things. I think, it's been awesome and great to answer your questions and talk about some of these things that I'm passionate about, and excited to see what's to come from your stuff too as well.
Thank you. So she's at Natalie Allport across social media. She's on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. So make sure to follow her, check out her content. She runs her own agency, 93 Agency, as well as hosts her own podcast called the All In Podcast. So Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck with everything in the future, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.